today's video, I want to talk to you about my personal favorite books of 2023. So hello my fellow fantasy book lovers, my name is Kathy and welcome to my channel. This is the first video that I'm actually recording in 2024, and of course the follow-up video to this one will be my worst reads of 2023. My goal originally for 2023 was to read 12 books. I massively overachieved on that goal and I read 45, and for this year my goal is actually to read 50 books. However, of those 45 books, only 10 books got a 4.5 to 5-star rating, and in today's video I'm going over them with you. And we're gonna end with my absolute favorite book. The other books are in no particular order at all. The first one on my pile is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is one of the books that really hit me as a surprise. The thing I knew about this book is that it was two journalists and they had a typewriter that somehow connects them to each other, and they are rivals at a newspaper to get like the role of lead publicist or whatever. This book is so much deeper than what I thought it would be, and that's why it's stuck with me so much, and also why I gave it the 5-star rating. I now also have the copy of the second book, which is Ruthless Vows. However, I still need to read it. So if you like romance stories, if you like darker, I'm not gonna say it's dark per se, but there are a lot of bad things happening to the main character. There's war involved. So this isn't like a fantasy romance that you would typically have. This doesn't really involve fairies or fae or dragons or anything, but it's different. And I personally really loved it. So if you have been looking at this book, I would say grab a copy of it and read it, because I really was blown away by how good it was. Up next are two very predictable books. I only own one physical copy so far, and it is Fourwing and Iron Flame. Yes, I got dragged into the hype. Yes, I did enjoy them that much that I wanted like a special edition with the extra chapter that I still haven't read. But yeah, Fourwing and Iron Flame have been all over the internet. They are probably as unavoidable as Akultar and Sarajemo's books at this point, but yeah, I really loved it. I personally went into Fourwing without, again, too many expectations because it was marketed towards a younger audience. It is definitely written for a little bit younger audience than I am. I'm 31 at the point of recording this video. I think this book is especially good if you're like in your early 20s. However, I do really love both Fourwing and Iron Flame. I think the story is really good. It's refreshing. It's something that at the point of my reading journey, I've only just picked up reading again, like seriously, like reading a book a week. For me, this was like really welcome into the books that I was reading, because at the time that I picked up Fourwing, I think I was reading heavier books like Robin Hobb, etc. So this was really welcome. And for those of you who need a little bit of context, in Fourwing, we follow the main character of Violet Sorrengail, who is the daughter of Lilith Sorrengail, who is like the commander of this war school army type situation, and Violet, so the daughter, who is planning to become a scribe, needs to become a dragon rider in order to like stay in the good graces of her mother. She's basically forced into going into the rider squadron, where she ends up in the Fourwing. And of course there is a love interest in this book. It is Xaden Ryerson, who is actually kind of supposed to be her rival in some way. At least their families have clashed in the past. You will discover a lot about this character, but there is a double point of view in the book, so some chapters are written from Violet's point of view, and later on, when Xaden is really thoroughly in the story, you will also get some chapters from Xaden's point of view. And if you buy this specific edition, there is an extra Xaden perspective chapter in the book at the end that I still haven't read, but yeah. Up next is actually a full trilogy. This is the Nevernight trilogy by Kristoff. I actually bought one of these books as a Christmas present for my sister-in-law. However, I got the wrong edition. So I bought the hardcovers and she wanted the softcover. So I decided to keep the hardcovers for myself. This was like Christmas last year. So I started reading Nevernight, the first book, and I was so blown away by it. I loved it so much that I actually wanted to do a book club with friends of mine. That never ended up happening, but that's the reason why I only read Darkdawn and Godsgrave at the end of 2023, and still, like, this story got me hooked straight away. I love how complex the character is. She's stubborn, she reminds me a little bit of myself, she's sassy. And like, it's not all happy, happy sunshine. I did feel like some of the twists in the book were a little bit odd. I didn't really see them coming. At one point, our main character becomes a pirate queen and stuff, so it wasn't all like predictable. In the first book, you think it's gonna go into like a revenge story. In the second book, it continues on that. And then near the end of the second book, it takes a completely different twist. And then the final book is purely based around that twist and how that ends. So yeah, I really love this trilogy. If you haven't read anything by J. Kristoff yet, I can highly recommend them. However, stick around to the end of this video because my #1 book is also J. Kristoff. Up next are both Legends and Lattes and Bookshops and Bonedust. These two books are the definition of cozy fantasy. It is a trend, I think, that started this year thanks to Legends and Lattes. I read Legends and Lattes rather early on this year, I think around the summer maybe, and then only recently Bookshops and Bonedust was released and I read it immediately as I got my hands on my copy. And yeah, I just really enjoy how chill these books are. They are also not like the thickest books ever, so you can read them rather quickly. It is low stakes, high fantasy. We follow the same main character in both books. She's Viv, she's an orc, and yeah, she has things going on in her life. In Legends and Lattes, she starts a coffee shop, and in Bookshops and Bonedust, she needs to recover from a battle wound and she ends up in a bookshop. So if you're looking for a book that is a really good like breather in between more heavier books, I can highly recommend them. The humor in these books is there. They also have like characters that you usually wouldn't expect to have traits that they have in these books. I really love them so much. Like, I can't praise these books enough. Whenever someone asks me, hey, I want to read fantasy books again, I don't know where to start, I always recommend one of these because I think they're just really accessible and really like cozy reads. Again, that's the word that I need to use for them because that's basically what they are. The second to last book in my top 10 is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Faeries. I also read the second book, however, the second book I didn't like as much. We follow Emily Wilde, who is a professor at a school who teaches about fairies and everything that is kind of like magical, and she actually goes to explore fairies in a specific part of the world. And everything is documented in her journal, so it's like really like written from her point of view, and then at some instances someone else also writes in the journal, as you will see later on in the book. I personally loved the first one because it was really what I would have wanted that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them would have been, like the journal type, the documenting, the discovering. That is what I would have wanted from that book, and that is what this one did for me. The second book, however, it was good, but it wasn't as refreshing and new and enticing as the first one, and that's fine. There is going to be a book 3, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And this book isn't your typical fairy romance book. It does have some romance in it, but it is different. So if you're not into super smutty fairy stories, if you want to see fairies the way they truly are, some good, some bad, some in between, then this book is for you. And then finally, my absolute favorite book, Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. I knew I would like this book the moment I saw it. Like, the cover spoke to me and I was immediately like, oh my god, I want to read this book. At the point that I picked up this book, I had read Nevernight and I knew I liked J. Kristoff's writing style, but this is a chunk of a book. This is also the biggest book that I read in 2023, and for me personally, it was worth every single page. In this book, we get an interview by Gabriel de Leon, who is the main storyteller of this book, as he needs to retell his life story to be documented to the person that he's held captive by. The world building in this book is incredible. We live in a world where vampires are almost everywhere. The sun doesn't rise. There is something going on why the sun doesn't come up anymore and why the entire world is doom and gloom. You will learn to hate potatoes thanks to this book. Yeah, the humor is dark, the humor is cynical. This is clearly written by someone who is into darker things. So if you're like looking for a happy sunshine romantasy vampire book, this is not for you. This is really like a dark fantasy. That's the main way that I could talk about this book. I cannot praise this enough. I'm super looking forward to Empire of the Damned, which is the second book in apparently what's going to be a trilogy. It's releasing in March, and in March it is my #1 priority read is reading the follow-up book to this because I love this so much. If you're into vampires, if you like darker fantasy, then I would highly recommend picking up this book. If you only want to get recommended one book from this entire video, this is it. This is my favorite. This one I have 3 copies of. I have the Illumicrate edition there and the full color Waterstones edition there. And then this, of course, was my first copy, my normal hardback copy. Yeah, I absolutely love this book, and I cannot praise J. Kristoff enough for this one, and of course also for the Nevernight trilogy. So these were my absolute favorite books that I read in 2023. Stick around on my channel because my next video is going to be the worst books of 2023, so books that I DNF'd or gave a 1-star rating, which for me is the worst that I can give. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the books that I mentioned in this list, and of course feel free to let me know what your favorite books of 2023 were as well. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more bookish content by me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I am making 2 videos a week in January, and in February we'll see how it goes, but you can expect all fantasy related content by me on my channel. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!